I'm going to show you how I work with different data files on Tableau, Data Wrapper, and Flourish, so that you get an idea of how these different data visualization packages work to create online graphics. We'll record this session, and then you'll have the video and the files so that you can practice on your own at your own pace. I may go a bit fast sometimes, but remember you will have that video. Data files, of course, sometimes when we have to create these visualizations, we obtain data from different sources. I'm going to stop my video. And sometimes that data is pretty messy, complicated. It's not exactly what we needed. And we have to deal with that a lot of the time. Typically, I work, and most people working with data tend to manipulate those data files in Excel and then create charts directly in Excel and from there to Illustrator, or from Excel they can go to a package like Tableau, for example. So let me show you. Those are the websites of those three software packages. They are all free, or at least you can use the free version. Flourish and Data Wrapper are just online. There's nothing to download and install. Tableau Public is software you need to install on your computer. But remember that the public versions, the free versions, are not going to let you save files locally on your computer. That means your data is going to be made public. Something very important, starting to talk about data, is how you organize that data file. In most cases, you're going to receive data from sources that needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And typically, it may come in one of two formats. There is what we call short format data, like that first set of numbers, where you see, for example, a number of countries and then columns by year. That's what we call short formats. Illustrator is going to work with that, with the charting tool, Data Wrapper too. And the other way is the long format data, where each row contains just one piece of data, one number. So country, you can see it's repeated Singapore 2015, Singapore 2016, and the data and the number, right? And typically, most of these packages are going to understand that better. You can go from one format to the other, or vice versa. For example, by using what we call pivot tables. The reason we often want to use the second format, the long format, is because it's going to allow us to have multiple variables. If you look at those numbers, then I can plot by country. I can use, for example, color or size by year. I can do the height of bars by imports. I can have more columns like exports, for example. It's more versatile in terms of having things that you can visualize later on. A recent case we had to deal with just this week, actually, we had to make a graphic like this. That's the New York Times coronavirus, new cases on top, new daily cases, and new deaths at the bottom. So those are bars, and then you have that 7-day average line on top, which is going to smooth that chart. You see all those little bars that go up and down a lot. The only reason to use that line, the 7-day average, is because it makes a smoother graph where you can see the trend a bit more clearly. So that's something we had to do this week. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share my desktop. And the first thing, of course, was to get the data. We found the data that the New York Times posted publicly in GitHub, and that's kind of a website, a repository where many organizations post code and data. And this is the file. So this is the file they had there. We downloaded that, and you can see date, cases, and deaths. A problem with this file, this is cumulative numbers, right? So is the increasing number of the total number of people that have been infected and the total number of people that have died and the date. But that's not what we needed. We needed to show new cases every day, not a cumulative. So the reason we use Excel is because it's very versatile to calculate, to take data and then use formulas, sorting, filters, etc., to create new categories you may be interested in. For example, in this case, what I needed to do was very simple. It's a formula to calculate new cases. So I'm going to say new cases. So instead of the cumulative, I want new cases. So new cases, the first day, so it's 1, the second day is 0, because it's the total number of cases. 0, then this is going to be, of course, total is 2, so it's 1 case. But of course, doing this manually will be a nightmare, right? I can create a formula, which is something you can do in Excel. What I need is to calculate the to calculate the new number of cases every day will be the total number of cases that we have today minus the previous day, right? That will give me what is new today. So in Excel, to create a formula, I'm just going to type equal, and then I'm going to say this cell minus this one. So today's total minus yesterday total, that will give me new cases. So I hit return, and that's what is new this particular day. And then the beauty of this is that I can carry this formula over to the entire file. You see, when I move my cursor over this corner, you see this little plus sign. I'm just going to drag down all the way to the end. And that formula is carried over. In this case, what I have is for each day, the number of new cases. You can see the formula up here. You see number of new cases here is B100, which is this cell, minus B99, which is this other cell. Right, so that's a formula in Excel where you can calculate the number of new cases. And what about, remember that a smooth line, the 7-day average? I don't have that here, but I can also create a formula. I can calculate that. I can say, can create a new column, 7-day average. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first 7-day average I can possibly have with this file is on this day, because it's the average of the 7 previous days. That's what I'm going to plot. And that's also a formula. To make a formula again is equal. And then there is a number of functions that you can access within Excel. There are hundreds of mathematical formulas actually. Average, this one. So it's average is going to open this parenthesis, and then I'm just going to define the range. I'm going to drag up to tell Excel what I want is the average of those 7 numbers. Close this parenthesis. So that's the average. Is what we call a moving average of the previous 7 days. A lot of decimal points, I can just go to format, cells, number, 2 decimal points is okay. All right. And now that I have this formula, again, I can carry this over. And that's it. That's the 7-day average. And then I can, of course, plot these 2 columns. I can say, I can take date, new cases, and 7-day average. So you see that I had cumulative data, but I converted that into new cases. And then in Excel, it's easy to create a chart. You select the columns you want to chart. And this will be a bar chart. You see, so it looks like the orange ones. I'm going to click on the orange, and the column becomes highlighted. That means that what I have selected is that 7-day average. That one I want to be a line, not bars. So I'm going to go to change the chart type, line. And that's it. That's the chart, right? And then I could polish and style this a bit more in Excel, but it will be better to just copy this and paste into Illustrator and finish the design there. Something that also is very, very useful in Excel is what we call a pivot table. A pivot table is a way to summarize large amounts of information, to organize it in a way. For example, I'm going to open this file. This is a kind of a history of medal winners in the Olympics. We have athlete name, country, age, year, closing ceremony, sport, gold medals, etc. So in total, it looks like I have, let's see, there are many, many thousands of rows of data. So if I wanted to create charts based on these interesting charts, there's no easy way to get started right now. How could I create categories? Like I want to see this by country or by year. That's what we call a pivot table. It's a way of summarizing information. I'm going to select all of these, and then I can go to data, and I'm going to say summarize with a pivot table. And in this pivot table, what you see on the right is all those different fields, all those different columns. And I'm going to say, for example, I want to organize this by country. So I get a list of just countries, not all the athletes. And then I want to see for each of the countries how many gold medals, how many silver medals, how many bronze medals. Or I want to see this by country and sport. So you can see Argentina, number of medals by sport. Or I can remove country and look only at sport and how many medals were awarded. So that's a pivot table. It's an easy way to organize this type of massive files where you have thousands and thousands of rows into easier categories. So you can experiment a little bit and see the kind of results you will get. That's a pivot table. And in the case of that COVID-19 file, another file that we got was directly from the CDC. So that's the, and this was good because it had the new cases in this column, number of new cases in the US. The big problem with that is that it was organized by state. So we have January 22nd in Colorado, and then we'll have every date for every single one of the states. So at the end, in total, we have 14,500 rows of data. With this, if I want to see the new cases nationally, what I'm going to do is also a pivot table. So I'm going to select all of these, data, summarize with a pivot table. And very easy, I'm just going to take the date and new cases here. You see that it has organized this by month. I can open that. Or if I want just the days, I can just take these months and eliminate it. And now I have the new cases nationally. All right, let's take a look. I'm gonna not save that. Let's take a look at Tableau. I'm going to open Tableau. Tableau is used a lot in the finance industry because it's very powerful for analysis of data. So this is Tableau Public. This is the free version. The free version is identical to the pay version. It's exactly the same, and the only difference is that you cannot save locally in the public version. The first thing you can do here is connect to a data file, and you can import multiple types of files, including, for example, a JSON file, which is a specialized type of file, text file, Excel, more often than not, or even a spatial file, like a shape file that you can use to create a map. More often than not, it will be an Excel file. So that's what I'm going to import now. I'm going to connect to Excel. And this is a data file that I have prepared. I will send you later on all these files. This is called cell phone subscriptions from the World Bank. It's a data set with all the cell phone subscriptions in all the countries in the world historically by year. So you can see Aruba, income group, region, year, number of cell phone subscriptions, etc. So when you import a data file like this, an Excel file into Tableau, here you are going to see what you just imported, right? We have the columns and rows that came from that Excel file. Something very important to remember is in your Excel file, you need to make sure that it's a clean file, meaning that it looks like this, that the very first row is the titles of the columns, and there is nothing on top of that. For example, a headline or a title or notes, all of that needs to go away. The first row is the names of the title of the columns. And then each of the rows contains just one piece of data, one number. The rest basically are categories. And you see these little icons here. You see the globe icon. That means that Tableau is recognizing this as a geographic name. That means in Tableau server, it knows that this is the name of a country, and it knows the shape. It can plot a map based on that name. And with these other categories are ABC, that means just text. This is date, and that's a number. I'm going to click down here, go to worksheet, sheet 1, this orange button. And here I'm finally in Tableau's interface. Here what you're going to see is on the left side panel is all those columns that came from the Excel file and some new ones that Tableau generates. And typically this is going to be divided into two groups. On one side, you have your categories, your categorical fields such as country, income group, region, etc. And in green here, you will have the numbers, things that you can operate with. An easy way to get started will be to use what we call, let me see. In this top right area, you can see Show Me. If you click on that, you have all these different types of charts. And then if I select, for example, a couple of categories, such as country and cell phones that were in my Excel file, on the right side, you're going to see that the things that you can do, the types of charts or maps you can do based on those two fields you selected are highlighted. So those are things you can immediately work with to create different types of charts. Or you can just do this manually, which is what we're going to do now. For example, I'm going to go to country here on the top left. It has that globe icon. That means it's going to recognize those as country names. So if I just double click on that, it's going to create this base map that for now is just locating a point. It's like an empty container for each of the countries in the world. It's telling you, okay, I recognize these names and I know where they are. I'll put a dot here, and now you tell me what to do with this. Here you have this panel called marks. If you go there, instead of automatic, you can go to map. And that's gonna give us a base map. It's going to plot the shape of those maps. And here on the top left of this area, you have these navigation tools that you can use to operate with your map. You can make it larger, you can center it a little bit, etc. Okay, so far what we have is an empty map with no data that I have plotted so far. And now I want to start plotting my numbers. In this case, what I want to do is to plot the number of cell phone subscriptions in each of these countries. I know that this is here, cell phones. And in Tableau, it's pretty much a drag and drop. What I'm going to do, so you start seeing the logic of this, is I'm going to drag cell phones into color. And this is telling Tableau to colorize this map based on those numbers, right? So the dark numbers are a number of higher number of cell phone subscriptions. I think this is a rate per 1,000 people. And the lightest one will be the smallest. Right, so that's already a data map. And when the user interacts with this, they can move around and they will be able to see these tooltips if I was to put this online right now. Okay, so that's a quick data map. And now I'm going to try to improve the color a little bit. If I click in color, I go to edit colors, and here I can make changes. I can say, for example, instead of automatic, I would like this to be a diverging color scheme. And that means that I'm going to see the very high numbers above average in greens, and then the small numbers below average in reds. That will be more dramatic change and maybe more telling. The other thing I want to do here is, if you think about this color gradient, that's something we don't really want in an area map, because it's gonna give us hundreds or thousands of different colors, different tones. We want just 4 or 5 or 6 specific colors. We want classes that we can use in a key for the map. So I'm going to click on step color. And I'm going to say, okay, I want 6 steps. All right. So here we can see much more clearly the high numbers, or above average in this case, and the very low numbers. And the dark red will be then the lowest numbers. What else can I do here? Imagine I want to implement a filter. I want to say, okay, I want to look at this or create a filter by region of the world. So I'm going to, which was another one of my columns in the Excel file. So I'm going to go to column, click on options and say show filter. And you can see now on the top right, I have this filter where I can select a particular region, for example, the Middle East. And the other thing I need to do here is, if you go to the top menu, you see this little pin symbol. I'm going to deselect that so that now we'll zoom in into the region we want to see. That's something that the users of this interactive are also going to be able to use this filter to look at different regions independently. All right, let's imagine that this is the map I wanted to do. And now I want to, for example, create a, let me see, recenter this a little bit. I want to create a chart based on the same data, and then I'm going to want to combine both the chart and the mapping into a dashboard, into a combination. All right, so I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to come down here where it says sheet 1. That's the worksheet where I am. Double click and call this map. And then I'm going to create a new worksheet. I'm going to come down here, and you see this little, it's like a bar chart with a plus sign. I'm going to click on that. No, I click on the wrong place. There, okay. And now what you see is another blank canvas where we are going to create a chart. The map is still there. So now we are here. To create a chart, the logic in Tableau is first, you have to define what is in the horizontal axis and what is in the vertical axis. In the horizontal axis, let's imagine I want to do a line graph showing the evolution of cell phone subscriptions in the world over time. So my horizontal axis is time. The way to do this is whatever is going to be your horizontal axis, you're going to drag and drop into this area called columns. Imagine horizontal arrangement in the horizontal axis. I'm going to drag and drop into columns. And whatever I want in the vertical axis, I'm going to drag and drop into rows. The horizontal axis is our measure of time. I want cell phone subscriptions over time. So I take year to columns. And you see what this is doing is creating a time axis, horizontal time axis. But so far it doesn't have any data plotted in this axis. It's just an empty container. And then the vertical axis is going to be cell phone subscriptions. So I'm going to take cell phones into rows. And now you can see the lines showing number of cell phone subscriptions in the world. It's interesting that by default, Tableau is going to aggregate all the numbers into just one line. It's making this sum of all the numbers for every year. So you can see this is a summary of all the cell phone subscriptions in the world. And then you can start telling Tableau how to disaggregate this information. For example, one of the categories I have in my data, in my Excel file, was income group. So I'm going to say, okay, let's take income group to color. And then it creates a chart. You can see the key on the top right with 5 lines. Each of those are for countries in that income group, right? So income was one of the columns. Every row in the Excel file had a category of income. So that's what it's doing, is colorizing by income group. Or imagine I want to look at this not by income group, but by region. So I'm going to take a region into color. And now I see the aggregate of all the countries in Europe and Central Asia. This will be Latin America and Caribbean countries, etc. So I tell Tableau to colorize by any of these measures to start disaggregating that data. Here in marks, you can change the type of chart you are doing. Instead of automatic, for example, let's say we want this to be bars. So you'll see these stack bars with aggregate for all the continents. In this case, what we want is the lines. We know that we actually have all the countries in the planet. So let's see. How can I represent all the countries? If you think about it, what I don't want to do is to take country into color, because that's going to give me almost 200 different colors. Let's see what happens here. You see, so that will be crazy. We don't want 200 colors here. Here on the top left, you have the undo level. So I'm going to go back, click on the arrow. And then let's say I'm going to take country if I want to plot all of them. And I'm going to actually drag it into detail. So that's different to dragging it into color, because now they are still colorized by region, as I had done before, but the level of detail in this visualization is by country. That's telling Tableau, okay, I want one line for each country. That's the level of detail. And that's why I drag country into detail, but I want this to be colorized by region. If you mouse over, you can see each of the countries, each of the years. But of course, this is a mess. It's too many lines. One thing I can do, I'm gonna go here to make it entire width. Okay. One thing I can do is to click on size and make this a lot thinner. But still, that will be a mess, right? So how can I disaggregate or divide this in a way that makes a bit more sense? What I can do is, for example, to have a separate chart for each of the regions. Let's imagine that I want to have 5 or 6 charts, one for each of the regions stacked on top of each other. The logic to do that is also to use these columns and rows. Rows can be used to define the vertical axis, like we did in this case, but also can be used to stack things or graphs vertically, and columns to stack things horizontally. For example, I'm going to take region and see what happens if I drag it into rows. What is it doing? It's creating rows, it's disaggregating this into rows of charts by region, right? So region went here to rows to stack regional charts. And still for each of those, you can see all the countries in that region. All right. And please interrupt me anytime if you have any questions. I know that I go a bit fast, but later on you can watch the video to follow this with the files. Now look at this chart. There's something interesting is that nothing really actually happens until the early 90s or even mid 90s. That's when we actually see these lines starting to grow. So there is no point in showing anything that comes before that. What I can do is I can create a filter, meaning I'm not limited to visualizing whatever was on the Excel file. I can select just part of that data and visualize only that. For example, I'm going to exclude anything that comes before 1995, more or less. For that, I need a filter. I'm going to take GR, my measure of time, into filter. And here I'm going to select range of dates. And I'm going to tell Tableau, okay, don't show me everything. You can type there, or you can just move the slider. Show me only data starting here, 1993, for example. And see, now we are limiting the range of data we are visualizing. Okay, so that's chart, countries. Of course, these are still very messy, but I'm just showing you different ways of creating these charts. Let's imagine that we have this chart and the map we did before. How do we combine them into a dashboard? I'm going to give a name here, sheet 2, let's call it chart. And then to create a dashboard and combine the map and the chart, there is this other little icon. It's like 4 little quadrants. I'm going to click on that. And here, instead of all those categories that I had before, what I see is just my map that I created and my chart. I'm going to double click on the map. That's going to place it in the dashboard. And with the chart, you can try something different. You can try, for example, dragging it. And you can see this gray box that's telling you where it's going to fall. I'm going to move it all the way down to make sure that it takes the entire horizontal space at the bottom. Okay, so I have my map, I have my chart. The size, you can see I can set the dimensions of this graphic. I'm going to say maximum size 900, for example. That's going to make it a bit larger. And then I want to add some other elements. For example, let's say I want to have a headline. Here at the bottom left, you can see these objects. Those are things you can add to the dashboard, such as an image, text, divisions, etc. So I'm going to take text, grab it all the way to the top to make sure it's going to take that top horizontal space. And then before I leave this window, I'm going to format it a little bit. Make it color and center. Okay, so that's my headline. And then I can drag this to make this area a bit smaller. Something like that. What else can I do here? Let's think of this for a moment. We have a map and a chart. But by the way, you can also resize this a little bit to change the proportion. Imagine you want less space for the map or for the chart, or vice versa. You can drag from that area. Imagine if I select a country like the US, it will make sense that when I select that country, the chart below shows me only that country. To do that, what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to select the map area, and you will see this black outline around it. And you see this little funnel icon, use as filter. I'm going to click on that. And now if I select one country, the chart is showing me only that country. If I select two countries with option or with command in a Mac, the chart is going to show me just those two countries. So now they are connected, right? The map is being used as a filter. Or imagine, remember we have this region filter. But so far that's applying only to the map. That means they're not connected in that way either. But I can do that. I can connect them. The way to do that is I'm going to go to the region filter window here, select it. You will see the outline, and then more options. And I say apply this region filter not just to the map, but to all the worksheets using this data source. And the chart is using that data source. Of course, they both come from the Excel file. So now, if I select one region, the chart will show me just that particular region. Okay, so that's a super quick dashboard, and we're going to make many more exercises. But imagine I have this. It needs a lot more polish, of course, but let's imagine that we are happy with this. Now I'm going to save this to Tableau Public. I'm going to call it cell phones. Save. And you can see this open my browser, and this is already live on the web. So this dashboard we created so quickly, anyone can actually come here and start interacting with this information. So this is live on the web. It's public because we're using that public version. So that's it. That's a quick interactive dashboard. And then what I will do is, if you see this, these buttons that here, on this one, what you can do is you can embed the code. You can copy and paste the code that you need to use to embed this on any website, on your own website. Or you can copy that link to send to someone. Okay, so you can copy the link to send to someone this link to the public visualization. All right, let's try another exercise now. Okay, so another exercise. Let's do one of those, something that is absolutely impossible to do manually in Illustrator, for example, is one of those maps with 3,000 counties in the US. How do we even do that? So for that, we just need an Excel file telling us, giving us all those counties and then different numbers associated with them. I'm going to open a file now in Excel. It's called election results. It's here. So that's a Excel file that I just opened in Tableau. This has over 3,000 rows of data. We have the state name, state FIPS, that's an identifier for the states, a number associated with each state. It's an official denomination. The county name, county FIPS, and that's also an individual number linked to those counties. Unemployment, percent Black. So we have a lot of different statistics about the population of each of these counties in the US. It's a really, really large data set. And in this case, the column I'm most interested in is the last one. It's called vote category. That's giving us the results of the election, the last election in the US. And it's only 4 numbers. 1 is a large margin of victory for Donald Trump, and 4 is a large margin of victory for Hillary Clinton. That's the way this data file was set up. So, okay, so just like we did before, to go to the Tableau interface, I'm going to click on Sheet 1. These are all the columns of data that were part of that Excel file, now imported into Tableau. And let's see. Okay, so I want a county map. So county is here. You see the globe. That means it's recognized as a geographic field. It can make a map with it. I double click. And just as we did before, remember I'm going to go to, instead of automatic, map. And we see something terrible here, which is something is happening here. I don't have all the counties. I only have a portion. That means that data is faulty. There is a problem there. One of the problems is that the names of counties are often repeated. You can have a Montgomery County, Maryland, where I live, for example, or you can have Montgomery County, Alabama, etc. So that's one reason is not identifying those names as unique. Actually, a better identifier of states and counties is what we call FIPS. FIPS is a unique number associated with each county. What is the problem? The problem is there is no globe symbol. That means Tableau is reading those as just text. It's not recognizing that information as a geographic field. It cannot make a map with it right now. But sometimes you can help Tableau. If I click here in more options, I'm going to go to geographic role. It's not known. It's actually, I'm going and telling Tableau, these are the counties. So these are counties. Okay, and now you can see the globe symbol. That means now it's going to make the map, right? I just double click on FIPS and it's making that. And now I have every single county in the US, okay, including Canada. For the sake of this, I'm going to focus just on the continental US. And I'm going to try to plot the election results here. You see this base map, this gray map underneath? That's pulling a base map from OpenStreetMap. But we don't really want this in this case. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to go to the top menu, map, map layers. And you can see those are all the layers that are part of that base map. I'm going to just deselect everything to have a clean map. Now I'm going to close this window so I can see my categories and numbers again. All right, so that's a base map of the US with no data so far. And now I want to plot the election result. Remember, it was in this particular column in the Excel file, vote category, numbers 1 through 4. If you drag this into color, it's going to colorize the map based on those 4 levels, right? But this is not very intuitive now. What I want is a classic election map of the US where red is Republican and blue is Democratic. So I'm gonna click in color, just like I did before, edit colors. And it's one of those diverging color schemes again. It's red and blue diverging. I know that I have 4 categories, so it's step color 4 categories. You see, and that's the election map of the US. Based on those 4 categories, all the dark red counties are those where Donald Trump won with a large margin of victory, and only the blue ones are where Hillary Clinton won in the election, which are basically most of the urban areas in the US, major cities, etc. Now let's see what a story could we tell with this information. I know that I have more information in this data file. For example, I have ethnicity information. You see percent Black on the left side, percent Hispanic, percent white. I want to see, for example, how this map correlates with a map of a white population in the US. Let's see. I'm going to try to plot that map. So I want to create a map of ethnicity under this election map. The logic for that is the same as we used before to stack those charts. I'm going to drag percent white. No, sorry, that's not the right thing to do. I'm going to take, to generate another map, I'm going to take another instance of this latitude. And that's creating an identical map under the first one. And now what I want to do is to replace the data on the second map. To do that, if you look at this area in marks, it's a bit tricky. You see this 2 latitude here and latitude again down there. Yeah, if I open the second one, those are the parameters for the second map. If I open the other one, those are the parameters for the first map. So I want to change the second one, this one. And what I want to have in the color, rather than vote category, is percent white. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it here or directly on top of what I have now. You see, now that's a map of white population, but to make it more intuitive, let's change the color to red. I see that there is a lot of blue in the middle of the country. To see this correlation a bit better, let's say red. And also let's say 4 to make it a bit more similar to the one on top. Okay, in this case, I don't need a diverging scale because we are measuring just one thing, percentage of white population. The dark red means counties with a high percentage of white population. And you see there is a pretty strong correlation. It's roughly the same area in the middle of the country. Areas with the highest level of white population are also the counties where Trump won the most votes. So there is a visual correlation that is interesting. Let's look at something even more interesting. Let's see what happens if we plot percent Black. So I'm going to take percent Black and replace white. And this is very interesting. I'm going to go to color. I'm going to change the color of the border to make this more clear. Look at this. You can see this arch, this shape down here. Those are counties with the highest percentage of Black population. And if you look at the election map on top, that corresponds almost perfectly to this area where Hillary Clinton won in the election. So there is a very strong correlation between race and the way people voted. Counties with a high percentage of Black population voted for Hillary Clinton. That seems very clear by looking at this. To make it even a bit more clear, I'm gonna create a filter. I'm going to take percent Black to filters. say all values. I'm going to tell Tableau, okay, Tableau, show me not every county, just those counties that have at least 50% Black population. Those are the counties, and you can see that nearly every single county that had more than 50% African American population, Hillary Clinton won in those counties. So that's an interesting story with data as well. Let's see, I'm gonna remove this filter. All right, and the last thing I want to show you here on Tableau is let's do, remember that COVID Excel file I was showing you before? Let's see if we can plot that in Tableau rather than Excel. So the new cases and the 7-day average. So that's a new Tableau file. I'm going to connect that to that file where I made the formulas before. This one. When you see that nothing appears on this area, that's because your Excel file had multiple tabs in it. So I'm going to take the one I wanted, which I think is, no, it's not this one. Is this one. Okay, so you have date, cases, deaths, new deaths, 7-day average for cases, 7-day average for deaths. I'm going to say, okay, down here, sheet 1, go to worksheet. And remember, the logic to make a chart, first I define what is in the horizontal axis, and I drag these two columns, and what is in the vertical axis, and I'm going to drag that into rows. Columns, horizontal axis, I want that to be date, to recreate that New York Times graphic. See something interesting is, remember I had every single day, and Tableau, again, by default tries to aggregate numbers, dates, everything. So, but if I click here, I see only 2020. But if I click on it, it goes one level beyond. It's going to show me quarters. If I click again, it's going to show me months. If I click again, those are all my days, right? So that's my horizontal axis. Number of cases, no, number of new cases. That's what I want in the vertical axis. There you go. And now I'm going to say, I think this is off the window. I'm going to go to entire view up here. Okay, entire view. And I want this to be not lines, but bars. Okay, so those are all the new cases day by day in the US, all the way to September, I think it's 22nd. And then I want to draw that 7-day average line. For that, I'm going to first create another chart underneath, the same as we did with the map. I'm going to drag that into rows. The second one now is my new chart. This one, remember, is going to be a line. Let's see what I'm going to do. This one is to be a line. And then I want to combine this. I want to put them one on top of the other. To do that, I'm going to go here to that line, and I'm going to say, okay, this is a dual axis chart. That means I want both on top of each other. And the last thing I have to do is look at my vertical axis. The one on the left is new cases. The one on the right side is 7-day new cases. But you can see that they're not perfectly aligned. You see that 70,000 on the left axis is here, but on the right side is a bit higher. It's trying to take all the space contained in the range of data. I'm just going to right click on this axis, and I'm going to say synchronize axis, meaning put 70,000 in exactly the same horizontal level so that both charts are aligned, basically. And in this case, you don't need a right side axis. You can just use one axis that is new cases. The bars will be in daily cases. The line will be 7-day average. All right, so one thing I can do here is, imagine I want to take this into Adobe Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is save this file. So I click on that floppy disk icon, and I say new cases and 7-day average. So now it's uploading that to the web. Yeah, so this is already on the web in Tableau server, so anyone can come and look at this. And what if I want this as a base for a static print graphic, something I want to bring into Illustrator, for example? Remember, on this icon, I'm going to be able to take the code to embed on our website, and that will be an interactive graphic. But if I just want this as a base for a Illustrator graphic, click on that other symbol and you say PDF. Include this view. Gonna make this an unspecified side landscape. Download. PDF has been generated. Download it. I do this again. PDF. And now that I have this PDF, I'm just going to drag it into Adobe Illustrator. And that's it. The chart is now in Illustrator, and then you can make any further editing. For example, I can take these bars and change the color. Etc. Sometimes it's going to break your text, like it happens with Excel, but in many cases it will come perfectly. And typically, the translation from Tableau to Illustrator is better than the translation from Excel to Illustrator. All right, so that's a bit of Tableau. Tableau is very powerful to quickly try different things with your data. It has a lot of analytical tools. So it goes really, really deep. This is just a few very simple examples, but you can try to replicate these exercises later, and then you can start exploring. There are multiple videos, video tutorials on the website. So try to take a look. All right, do you have any question on Tableau? What
I have one question.
Yeah.
Actually, I asked it in chat, but maybe you didn't see it. Where do you get all data?
Well, it depends.
Excel files.
For example, the ones I show you about COVID-19, the New York Times one, they post a lot of their important data files on GitHub. GitHub is a website where different people and organizations share code and data files. In the case of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, I just went to their website and just start digging, and that's where I found that you could download the file. In most cases, you just have to go to the original source. Sometimes go to the website. Sometimes you have to make a phone call to try to find the right person that is going to send you that file. But
it looks great what you show us. It's amazing program. For me, it's new and very interesting. But yeah, I need data for creating what I want.
Yeah, in most public organizations, governments, they tend to offer publicly available data, as well as many larger organizations. For example, UNICEF and the World Bank, they're very good at disseminating data and making it easy to access. If we are talking about companies, private companies, it's more often than not a question of calling up someone like a media contact person, someone that can provide those numbers for you. And then you will have to start that process of probably cleaning up that data file a little bit. If the type of information you want is not exactly like that in the file, you may have to use those formulas, sorting, pivot tables, etc., until you have something you can do graphics with.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's take about 15 minutes. Let's come back at 1:55. Right. I'm sorry?
I wanted to ask you a question about whether or not you can share that data so we could try to follow along on our own with the exercise.
Yeah, we're going to send you the recording of the whole session, and we're going to send you the files.
Okay, great, thanks.
Meaning that the exact same files I'm using, you can import later in your own Tableau and Data Wrapper and Flourish. All right, welcome back. So we're going to continue. This time, we're going to jump to a different software, Flourish. So let's take a look at that. Remember, we are recording everything. If I go a bit fast, remember you can later play this and play with the data files to make your own versions of this. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm going to do to a web browser, because Flourish is web-based. There's nothing to install in your computer. It's all done on the web. Let's take a look. Flourish is in many ways more simple than Tableau, but it's nicer also in other ways, because it has very nice transitions. It has some chart types that you cannot create in Tableau. It's better in general for responsive design, meaning things that adapt automatically to desktop or mobile screens. And it also handles map projections better than Tableau. If you go to the website in Flourish, you can take a look at some of those examples. For example, look at this. The first one is a nice moving chart showing the evolution of urban population in different countries over time. So that looks nice. It's all animated and something that is simple to create. Look at this survey, for example. So it has really nice transitions and animations. Or even this 3D looking nice globe. Let me show you, showing a trade between different countries in the world in different moments in time. There is a slider to animate this. So things that look pretty sophisticated, you can create. There is a filter as well. They have what they call scrollytelling. Let me click on this, and you will see here is an example of something you can also create with Flourish, which is this type of scrolling pages where you're going to see charts and a narrative where the user is going to just scroll vertically and move through this design. All right, so Flourish is based on templates. That means that for any given chart or map design that you want to create, the first thing you're going to do is to open an existing one, and then you will replace the data. You can create your own free account. When you have an account and you sign in, it looks like that, where you see all the different visualizations you have created. And then you click on New Visualization. New Visualization is where you're going to start any project. And then what you're going to do is to choose an existing template that resembles the type of graphic you want to do, and replace the data that exists there with your own. So you can see, for example, all the different types of bar, line charts, population pyramid, different types of maps, for example, this state map, congressional districts, different areas in the world. These are just some selected templates, not all of them. Different types of scatter plots, 3D maps. So there's a lot of nice types of visualizations, this Sankey diagram, etc. For example, if you remember that 3D globe I was showing you, let me open that template. So it looks like this. So it looks amazing. I can rotate this globe actually. But if you look at the data, it's very simple. And this is what you have to import into Flourish to visualize something like that. So it's very, very simple. It's just exports from China, imports, the year, the source, the destination, and the value for each of those lines. And you can see the kind of thing you can create pretty automatically. Let's create a chart. I'm going to create a new visualization. So let's click on that button, new visualization. I'm going to do now a scatter plot chart. So a scatter plot, remember, is when we try to see if there is a relationship between two data sets, such as, for example, GDP in countries and life expectancy, etc. Let's choose this one. That's a type of a scatter plot, and I will show you what it does. What this is going to do for us is an animated scatter plot where you will see the evolution of something over time. As you can see here, GDP on the horizontal axis, life expectancy on the vertical. Let's see if we can try to recreate something like that. So I open my template, and what I want to do now is to replace the data here with my own. In any visualization in Flourish, you have these large tabs on top, preview and data. Data is what you are importing. Preview is telling you what is looking like as you've made different modifications. So now what I want to do is to take that template. I want to create my own scatter plot. So I'm just going to replace this data with my own. I'm going to go to the black button there, upload data. And now I'm going to find my file. Let's see. The one I want to use is this one. That's a CSV file. It could be an Excel file as well. It could import, it can import both. And you can see import publicly or go private. Import publicly is the only thing you can do if you don't have a pay version. So remember, again, like Tableau public is going to make your information public. So import, you see it's very fast. It imported a file that has 3,500 rows of data. And you can see it says, next, select the columns. All right, so now we are looking pretty much at the columns and rows that came from that Excel file. So it looks very much like an Excel file, right? It's just a spreadsheet. And in Flourish, what you're going to do is to select columns to visualize. You see this right side area. So select columns and tell Flourish what to do with them, how to use them, right? So it's pretty straightforward. It's like looking at the Excel file and saying what you want each of the columns to do. So let's imagine now we are visualizing, the template is visualizing these things that we are not interested in. So I'm going to delete all of that. And now I want to create a scatter plot. What is in the horizontal axis? Let's see, for example, one thing I could do is I want to compare, let's imagine from this file that has statistics about a lot of countries, I want to compare income per person in different countries. And for example, life expectancy on the other axis, income per person and life expectancy. So select columns to visualize. My horizontal axis or x-axis, I want that to plot income per person. So that's column I. So I just type I. My vertical axis, I want that to be life expectancy. So that's K. So I'm gonna hit return. And if you look at this small area on the bottom right, that's a mini preview of what is happening. Look, I'm gonna go back and you can see when I type K, you see what happens in that preview. And if you want to see the large preview, you click on this tab on top next to data, and you can toggle between those. And here you can see what is happening live with that graphic you are creating. So far we have created a horizontal axis that is income per person and a vertical axis that is life expectancy. Let's go back to the data. Okay, what else do we see here? Name. What is going to be the name of these data points? So each of those is a country. So what I want that should be A, which is my column A, country name. What happens if I go back to the preview? Yeah, you see that now I can see the name of the countries: Kuwait, income per person, life expectancy. And these are tooltips that the user is going to be able to see as they mouse over. What else? Color. Let's say I want to colorize this by, let's see what we have here in the file, by region, for example, D. So I type D. Now I have that those regions. So basically, you just tell Flourish what to visualize, which columns to visualize, and doing what. Size. The size here could be the population of these countries, for example. Let's say L. See, for example, China is this very large circle. Now look at something. We see hundreds and hundreds of circles, and the reason for that is that it's visualizing all these data points for all the countries for many years. So we have 1952 for all the countries, 1956 for all the countries, 1960. So way too much information, right? Too many data points. Something I can do is to play with this time. Time, imagine, let's see what happens. My measure of time here is column E. So if I type E, see what happened now. It created a slider where we're going to see each of the years individually, right? Rather than all the data points on the screen. At the same time, we are going to see this one by one. So that's really cool. It already created an animated chart. Let's go back to data. What else is here? Series, connect with line. That means, let's imagine, if I type the country, I want to have some lines connecting those countries over time. So I'm gonna type A. Let's see what this means. If I go back to preview, this is drawing these lines that show the path of each of these circles over time. Right, so that's something I could do. Or if you think that's messy, just delete it. So we don't need to do it. I can create a filter here. For example, imagine I want users to choose or to look at this by region. So I'm gonna type D. And again, you choose which column from your data you want to visualize and with which kind of property. Filter, let's go back to the preview. And here you see I have a new filter where I can choose only one particular region of the world. What else can I do? All right. This is still a bit messy, a lot of data. Imagine, for example, that I want to go back and put those lines back. So it's a very complex graphic. I can use this thing called grid of charts to also disaggregate or break down this information. Instead of just one big chart with all the information, imagine I want to make several charts, one for each of the regions. So what I want to do is to say grid of charts based on column D, based on regions. And see what happened now. It created individual charts for each of those regions. What I can do now is also look at something a bit peculiar about this is this scale. That's a logarithmic scale, something we mentioned before. It's not even increments. That's a little bit confusing. So what I want to do, now that I'm in the preview, once I have finished assigning columns to different functions, I'm going to go back to preview. And here on the right side, I have all these parameters that I have to refine this visualization. For example, I'm going to go to x-axis, and I'm going to say, okay, this, let's see, this scale is linear rather than logarithmic. And now let's say, what else can I do? For example, in the grid of charts, I want to say the minimum chart width rather than 150 pixels, let's say 300. And you see how these charts are now reflowing nicely. Okay, something that flourishes very nice with this responsive design, as I mentioned. For example, this is what you will see if you are on a desktop computer. But if you click here, if someone is using a tablet, the chart is going to reorganize itself automatically. You don't have to do anything. It's going to recognize the size of that device and do a different layout. So instead of rows of 3 charts, these are going to be rows of 2, so that they don't become so small, the type, etc. If you're on a smartphone, this is what you are going to see. So it's nice because it's going to adapt automatically to that, to those devices. So let's say, okay, let's imagine that this is my chart. What I want to do now is export and publish. So export and publish to share and embed, publish this visualization. And now if I go to, do you see this other tab in my browser? It's just basically, it's already live on the web. So it's showing me that visualization on the web.